Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Custom Carving and Epoxy UK. Now, this is a little bit of a different video. It's not a sponsored video, but I've had Just For You Online send me some resins to try out. So firstly, thank you to Just For You Online. I'm looking forward to testing these because I've seen a few creators using this EPOXY resin and I've not tried it myself. So they've sent me some UV resin, which again looks really well packaged, fast cure, no shrinkage, no yellowing, UV resin. So I'm going to do a project with that later on. Looking forward to trying that out, and it's meant to be suitable for casting and doming. So I've got some pieces that I actually want to dome, so I'm going to have a look at that one later on. But they've also sent me two different types of resin. Now they've sent me this one coat, which is again fast cure, thick one coat, high heat resistance resin. And they've also sent me their standard high gloss finish. So I'm looking at these and I'm trying to decide what's the best way to test them. So I'm going to do a couple of things. Those of you that have been watching know that I love this mold from Into Resin, this starfish one. And I also did a little crystal piggy. Now I did that with a little bit of glitter coming through. And I think the best way to test a new resin for me is to try and do a couple of pieces clear so you can see what it actually cures like. So I'm going to do two different experiments here with the two different resins. So I'm going to try a bloom with the one coat just because I'm slightly obsessed with blooms at the moment, and it says it's a thick one coat. So again, blooms tend to work better with a thicker resin. So I'm going to try a bloom, and I'm going to do a Bird of Paradise inspired colour theme. So I'm going to use my standard bloom mould that I've been using because it comes out with really good results. And then I'm going to use the high gloss finish just to do a couple of almost clear ones as well. So if you remember a couple of videos ago, we did this little crystal piggy that came out really well with just a little bit of that glitter in there. And again, we did the same with the starfish. So that's what I'm going to try with this. Again, it's probably going to take around about 3.5 ounces, I think, for that. And then I'm going to do a standard 3.5 ounce bloom as well, just to see how this performs as well at the same time. And it's going to take a while for this to heat up anyway, so that will give me time, hopefully, to fill these. And see what effects we get. But before we go any further, thank you Just For You Online. I'm really looking forward to testing these out. And if you want to have a look on their website as well, have a look. It's Just For You Online. And I've got a discount code for you, which is ccukresin. So make sure you put that in. That'll get you a discount off all these products. And let's get straight to it. Let's test these resins out. And I'm really excited by this because I'm testing out two different resins here. And I'm going to do two completely different techniques. So I'm going to be doing these and then also the bloom in the same video. So it might get messy, guys. I'll pre-warn you. So, but thanks to Just For You Online for sending me these. And don't forget, have a look on the website and use the discount code CCUK. And let's get straight into it. So again, if it's your first time working with resin as well, always make sure you're gloved up, always make sure you've got a respirator on. Now I've got these stirring sticks, which I've used quite a few times, but if you didn't know, with resin, basically these wooden stirring sticks are great, but they can release bubbles. So once you've got a thin film of resin on there, it stops that happening, and that's why I reuse the same sticks. And you can see a couple of them where I've had to break it off from the bottom, but it doesn't affect them stirring, so I'm going to use those. And I'm going to start off by mixing up these two resins, seeing what I think. And then putting it in the bubble removal machine, and then we can get on with the two different experiments. So I'm really excited. I love trying new products. I love trying new resins just to see if we get good results, basically. And this EPOXY resin as well on their website, it's a lot more affordable than some of your larger brands. So actually, in that case, if this does work, it could also save us some money. And we know resin's expensive, so it's always good to try and save money where you can. So again, just taking these foils off the tops of the bottles, which you always get, and it's normally the most annoying part. So there we go, that's those off. In the bottles, they both look crystal clear, so that's great. I'm hoping we get that result when we've mixed it up and put it through the debubbling machine as well. So I know it comes in lots of different sizes on the website as well. These are the smallish bottles. I think they're about 300 ml in each, so I should be able to get a good couple of projects out of them. And if I like it, I can go back and buy some more. But again, I love testing out new resins, new products, anything exciting that we can have a look at together as a resin community. And if it's any good, it gives you guys the option to go and try it for yourselves as well. But I love testing these products as well, so thank you to Just For You Online. And again, have a look on the website, because they do all sorts on there. And I have probably spent the best part of 2 hours just looking through the website. So have a look and let me know what you think. But first thing I'm going to do, make sure I remember which one's which. So I'm going to keep on the left hand side the standard high gloss resin, and on the right hand side I'm going to keep the one coat resin. And the one coat is the one that I'm going to try a bloom in, just because it says it's thick. So I'm only going to mix up about 4 ounces of each and see where we go. So again, I always use these measuring cups because 1-to-1 resins makes it a lot easier. You don't need to weigh it out or anything like that with scales. You just literally get your cups and measure it in. And I've just noticed actually this one's got some cured resin on the bottom, so it's a good thing I checked before doing the video. But these two haven't. I'm just making sure that they're completely empty, which they are. And then I'm going to mix up in both of them roughly 4 ounces of resin. So I always go in with the hardener first, and I'm going to want about 2 ounces of this hardener. And with that's the other thing with these 1-to-1s as well, they're pretty straightforward when it comes to mixing. So if you're going for 4 ounces, you just pour 2 of each in, and you haven't got to weigh it, you haven't got to get the scales out or anything like that. Now straight away, it feels a little bit thinner than the usual resin I use, this one. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Oh, there we go, this is a little bit thicker. So I think, again, once they're mixed with this one, with this standard sort of high gloss resin, I think you're going to get probably, I would say, a medium viscosity resin, which will work well for the project that I've got in mind. So that is the first one, and that is 4 ounces in that cup. So that is those two, and they're the ones that I'm going to use for this crystal pig and crystal starfish. And I'm actually going to mix in some cat's eye alcohol ink as well into the resin, and just see if that creates a different effect versus the glitter that I used last time. So this is the one coat, and already I can see that is a thicker resin. It feels a little bit thicker, maybe not as thick as some of the others that I've used, like the Jiao Chun, but we will see in a second once I've mixed it, because you never know until you've mixed the two. Wow, actually, take that back, this is really thick. So actually this could be a great one for the bloom. Wow. I'm just going to see if we get a different effect with this, but I'm loving the thickness of this. If it works, it could be a new go-to for my blooms, because again, you want a thicker viscosity resin for those to be able to support the weight of whatever pigments and micas you're putting in there. And wow, this is thick. As I say, it's been stored, standard temperature in this room is about 21 degrees. And the great thing is I've got one of these bubble removal machines which works with thick and thin viscosity resins, so they're both going to go in there before we use them. And wow, this is really thick actually. I don't think I've worked with one that's quite as thick as this before, so will be very interesting. but it could be the perfect resin for blooms. We will find out. And there we go, that is roughly 4 ounces of that one coat as well. So just going to put the lids on those as well. And never put the wrong lids on the wrong bottle once you've started using a resin, because it will be a nightmare to get off. Learn from my mistakes. So I'm just going to mix these up. So I've got the one coat, thicker one, which I'm going to use for the bloom, on the right hand side to me, and I've got the standard high gloss finish on the left hand side to me. And always keep your gloves clean, otherwise you get sticky everywhere. So in we go, stirring, sticking each, and I'm just gonna stir these round. I would imagine it's going to be about 4 minutes that we need to stir them for. And when you're stirring, always remember to scrape the sides and the bottom. And wow, this is a thick one. I'm excited by this now, because it may work really, really well with blooms. Very, very different viscosity resins, these two. So I'm glad they've sent me the two to try. Because again, you've got to start thinking, when you get into resin projects, you've got to think what resin is right for the job. Because not every resin's the same. And you can just see here that difference in thickness, which is great for certain things, not so good for others. So again, just make sure you've got the right resin for your project. So I'm glad that they've sent me these two. Again, it's the same brand, so it's EPOXY Resin. Just going to take my respirator off now and see if there's any fumes that I can smell. And there's not, to be honest, so they're very, very, very low fumes. Again, I would always recommend using a respirator anyway when you work with resin, just to make sure you're not getting those fumes in your lungs. But again, I'm loving the different viscosities so far. It's the simple things that make me happy. But if you can just see already, that is really, really thick. And this one is more like water. So it's going to be an interesting experiment, but I think I've definitely picked the right one for the right project. So this one is going to be the one to fill these crystal molds, and then this one is going to be the one that I'm going to use for my bloom. And any of those of you that have been watching my previous videos as well, you know that you've got to wait a little while for bloom resin anyway to get up to temperature. So that will give me time to hopefully fill these two molds and do something with them whilst we're waiting. But yeah, really happy with these different viscosities, because I think it's already opening my mind to lots of different projects that I can do. And as I say, this is really thin, this one, which is great for a lot of applications. And then this one is really thick. So again, that would be great for things like your blooms, where you don't want things to sink in the resin. So really excited by these, and I'm hoping that we're going to get some cool results. Let me know in comments, guys. Have you used this EPOXY resin before? Did you get good results? But again, I've done a bit of a price comparison. I'm going to do a future video on that. And one thing I will say is this looks really affordable as a resin. So if it does work, it could become my go-to. We will see. And I think when you start doing lots of different projects with resin, you start having your favourite resins for different projects, just because they seem to work better or easier or things like that. And you'll see already this thick viscosity one, you get loads of bubbles in it when you're mixing. Doesn't matter how slow you do it or anything like that, you're always going to get that because it's a thick resin. You can do it really slow if you want, but the great thing for me is I've got one of these bubble removal machines, so I don't really need to worry about that because I know the machine's going to take all of those bubbles out. And again, just looking at it now, the streaks have gone and it is crystal clear, even though this one, as you can see, it looks really full of bubbles, and that's because it's a really thick viscosity. That is crystal clear now, so I'm just scraping around the sides. Always scrape around the sides of your cup and the base to make sure that you're not going to have anything unmixed. And then I'm just going to stir that for another 30 seconds. And then I think we'll be good to go with that one. And again, the same with this one now. I can't see any streaks in there, but look at that difference in viscosity between the two. completely different resins. Really, really interesting. This one's more like a watery consistency. It might be great for actually, interestingly, although this is called the one coat, I actually think this thinner one would be great for canvases as well. So I'm going to experiment with that because I just think it will spread really well. But again, happy with that. That's all mixed up. That's all mixed up, but look at the difference. Just because of those viscosities and resins, you've seen I've mixed them exactly the same. That's the thinner one, not as many bubbles. And that is loads of bubbles, and that's just the way that it works. So whenever you get a thick resin and you see somebody doing a video with a thin resin that gets a much clearer effect, that's probably why. It's the viscosity of the resin, so don't panic. If you can, get yourself a debubbling machine. If you can't, what I would recommend is putting these on a heat mat or in a water bath just to get the bubbles out before you pour. But there we go. So these are now both going to go in the debubbling machine. And I've got to remember which one's which, so I'm going to keep it the same. So I'm going to keep this high gloss on the left, on my left anyway, and then this thicker viscosity one coat on my right. And hopefully that will help me remember which one goes where, and then I can get prepared for the first project that we're going to do with this standard sort of high gloss one, which is going to be these two crystal molds here. But again, love these different viscosities. It's great to play with. So thank you again just for you online, and let's see what we get. So both these going to go in the bubble removal machine. I don't think they'll need more than 5 minutes, so I'm just going to put them in there for 5 minutes, remembering which one's which, and let's see what they come out like. Again, if you're enjoying the content, guys, do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel. Makes a huge difference to us, and I'll come straight back in 5 minutes once they've mixed up. But again, trying the two different resins. So I've got this high gloss finish one for the crystal projects, and then I've got this one coat thicker one that I'm going to be using for the bloom on this experiment. Always wipe your bottles as well, you know, you don't want them sticky. Just makes projects a lot easier. And as you can see, I've used 4 ounces of each. It's about 1/3 of a bottle, so roughly I think about 12 ounces I'll end up getting out of these sets. So thank you again, and check the website out, and I'll be right back once these are ready to take out the bubble removal machine. They've both had 5 minutes in the bubble removal machine, and I want to show you this crystal clear. That one, the first one, which is the standard high gloss one. Now you've got to watch the thicker one like a hawk. Because it's so thick, even though there's only 4 ounces in this cup, I found it overflowed in my bubble removal machine. So watch it like a hawk, pause it before it overflows, let the air out, and then put it through again. And as you can see, there's still lots of bubbles in there, and I think that's because of how thick it was and how vigorously I mixed it. So I'm going to put it back in for another 5 minutes, and then we'll come back to this one afterwards. But it gives me time to work on obviously these two crystal projects that I'm going to be doing. So back in the bubble removal machine with that one. And just remember, guys, if you are using the same resin, this one coat, and you're putting it in a bubble removal machine, just watch it like a hawk, because you get that many bubbles in there when you mix it, it will inevitably overflow. And that's just 4 ounces in an 8 ounce cup, which I'm normally okay with. But again, just watch it like a hawk, and you should be okay. So I'm going to put that back in for another 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and see the results. But it allows me to get on with this one as well. So, and the great thing is that thicker one that I'm going to be using for a bloom anyway, it's going to take a while to get up to temperature. Right, so what I'm going to do with this high gloss resin, let's say I've got about 4 ounces mixed up here. Loving the fact that it's crystal clear after going through that debubbling machine, and it's still quite a light viscosity. Now, I'm going to be using these crystal molds. So this one is a pig, and this one's a starfish. Now, what I found with these is I don't like doing too much to them because I think it takes away from the crystal effect. So all I'm going to try, and I've not done this before either, last time I put pinky glitter in there, which came out really well, but I've recently made this cat's eye alcohol ink, and what I'm going to try is mixing some of this directly into that resin, quite a decent amount as well. I want a decent coating like that to see what that will cure like in this resin. And if you look, you can just see all of those different colours in there. And as I say, I didn't count the drops or anything like that because I knew I wanted a decent layer. So what I'm going to do is just give that a gentle stir through. Again, not too much, just so that it gets all the way through. And the last thing I want to do at this point is add bubbles back in when I've just worked hard to sort of get rid of them. So again, just gently going around it, giving it a quick swirl, and you can see those cat's eye particles just suspended in the resin, which is the look I'm going for. And I want to make sure that they're going all the way through, which I believe they are now. And that's it for this project, apart from filling the molds and letting them cure. So again, just going to be quite gentle with it. Going to do the easy one first, which is this starfish, and then the more complex one. But again, if you're new to handmade molds as well, guys, don't be worried about things like this. It's just a case of taking your time a little bit more. So just going to pour into the center of this starfish, and I'm loving that. So it should give us a clear crystal effect here with hopefully those cat's eye particles. And I like to dome it just a touch with these molds. So I think that is about perfect for me on that one. Now with this pig one, you can't really see inside of it because of all of the flaps. But again, it's got a head down there and it's got a tail down there. So what I like to do is I'm just going to open one of these flaps up with my tool, because again, you're not meant to touch the inside of these molds. So again, I'm just using a tool just to lift up one of those flaps, and I'm going to fill it probably about 1/3 of the way up, no more than that. Ooh, and that can happen. So again, just be careful with your molds, guys. But the great thing is, any excess I can just wipe it off the top with my baby wipe. So that's that part. And I'm just hoping I don't make a huge mess now. But now I just want to tip it from one end to the other. Again, trying to be gentle, but the great thing is with this being so thin, I think it's going to degas any of those potential bubbles really well, this resin. So you can see I'm just squidging it round, literally like that, tipping it from one end to the other, just to make sure it gets into all of those details. Then I'm just going to drop it a couple of times. And that should encourage any bubbles up to the top, hopefully. So again, just clearing that excess off my silicone because I don't want a very sticky mold. So that's about 1/3 of the way filled. Now what I did learn from the last one as well is you really want to overfill it for these legs. So again, I'm just gonna now pour some more resin in. Again, I don't want to fill it at this point. I just want to maybe get it to about halfway, which I've done. And then the same thing, I'm just going to squidge it around like so, trying to encourage any bubbles to the top. Now with these molds as well, you can't use a flame. You can't use a flame on them. You can't spritz it with alcohol afterwards to get those bubbles out. So it's really important that you take the time to just squidge it around the mold and try and encourage those bubbles up, because what you want is, if there are air bubbles, which there inevitably will be, you want them to come up in these feet where you can actually do something about them. So there we go. And now I'm just going to fill it all the way to the top. Again, trying to get it in the mold rather than on the mold. Until, there we go. So that is overfilled. But that's what I wanted, because what I found last time when I slightly underfilled this is the feet went a little bit hollow. So I did want it to be slightly overfilled. I'm going to take some of the excess off and then just give it a squidge around and see where we are. So it's quite messy, I suppose, when you're working with a mould like this and you're not using pipettes and things, but hopefully the results you get make up for that. So again, just wiping off any excess off that mould, and then I'm going to get another wipe just to clean up the mould a little bit and then see if I want to top up those feet, because that was the only thing I did notice last time I used this mould, is the feet, when it cures, because your resin slightly shrinks, they went a little bit hollow, which I didn't want. So again, just wiping the top of this mould with a wipe, nothing on there, just a baby wipe. And you can already see where it kind of goes in like that. So again, just giving it a bit of a squidge, like so, tapping it so that hopefully any bubbles can come to the top. And then what I'm going to do is just go back in on those feet. And then that's all I'm going to do with these two for a test, because it's mainly to test this resin and to see what effect, if any, this cat's eye alcohol ink has by mixing it into that resin. Hopefully we'll get a really cool effect, a bit like the glitter, but with all those different colours. So all I'm going to do now, before I put these to one side and get everything ready for the bloom, to test this second resin, just going to move everything across so I've got space on my workbench. The starfish I'm already going to put it across there because there's not a lot I need to do to that now, it's done. But if you can see already, and I can see a couple of bubbles in there, so I'm just going to use my tool, go around the edges. All of these flaps is where those bubbles are going to want to form, and you're just going to try and encourage them out to the edges, and hopefully it will prevent you getting any bubbles. So that is that done. Now what I want to do is just, again, slightly top it up. You see these feet? I didn't do this step last time and they went a little bit hollow. So I'm just going to top them up, a couple of drops in each, so that those feet dome. And hopefully that will solve the problem this time. But again, that's one of the fun things working with resin, is you find out what works for your mould every time you use it, and hopefully each time you're going to get a little bit better. And again, I'm not too fussed about any excess on the top because I can sort that once it's cured. But if you just look there, you can see the feet now. It's like a little bubble on top, which is what I wanted. So I'm just going to move that to one side now, and that can cure. Simple as that. Now I have got a little bit spare, probably got about half an ounce in there, which I don't like to waste anything. So I am going to mix it up with something just to try and utilise it. So I'm just having a look through my spare moulds at the side. And I've got some teddies. So again, I'm just going to fill up one or two of these just with this spare and see what they cure like. And again, I'm hoping for a really cool effect with these cat's eye particles. And I think sometimes with resin, the less you do, the better, you know? Because then the resin itself is almost like glass. And obviously it depends what look you're going for, but sometimes, as I say, less is more. And all this has got is that beautiful clear resin and those cat's eye particles in there. And then I've got the tiniest bit left, so I'm going to pour that in. Those of you that have been watching the channel know that I've got a dragon mould at the side of me, which I'm just trying to fill with spare resin. And then we can hopefully see what temperature our bloom's at and get on with that. But really liking the resin so far. I'm enjoying playing with it. I'm enjoying the different viscosities of that resin. and hopefully it's going to allow us to get different effects with different projects. So this is that dragon mold, and it's nearly full now. I'm really excited by this. It's getting there. So I'm just going to get any spare resin that I've still got left in this pot. There's not a lot, to be fair, but again, that's the great thing about having a side mold for your spare drips. You never know what effect that's going to have, and I've been working on this one for must be about 3 weeks now, just with my spare excess drips, putting them all in there to see what effect we're going to get. And I don't like to waste resin, so I think we could have a really cool effect with this dragon. Just thinking of all the different colours I've used over the last few weeks in different projects, but it's nearly there now. I think we've probably got, I don't know, maybe another 2 ounces worth, and then he's, well, not even that, probably 1 ounce, and he'll be full. So that is that. Now I'm going to look at the temperature of this thicker resin. So just so we all know, for when we demold, this was the high gloss finish resin, EPOXY resin from Just For You online. So we'll see what they cure like in the morning. And now it's time for the bloom, I think. So again, I'm going to use this standard bloom mold, and this one's inspired a little bit by a bird of paradise, the colours I'm going to be using. So might work, it might not. I don't know. Blooms are one of those things that I found 50% of my blooms tend to work and 50% don't, even if I'm doing exactly the same process. So again, don't be disheartened if you're finding the same results. So what I'm going to do before I start, I'm going to go with 3 different colours for this. So I'm going to get 3 piping bags ready. And I'm really hoping, with it being that thicker viscosity resin, it'll help prevent any blobbing in blooms, so we'll find out together. And again, mixed, it feels like one of the thickest I've used. It's thicker than the Janchun one that I use, which I class as a thick resin. And with these piping bags, the small ones, they're still far too big, so what I do is I just chop off 2 inches off the top like that. And I'm not going to go with any particular pretty designs or anything like that. I'm just going to go with the spiral effect for this one. To see mainly if I get any blobbing or not with this particular resin, and if not, it could be my new go-to for blooms. So those of you that have tried blooms before know that that's probably one of the biggest frustrations, is unless you get the temperatures just right and the mixture of your white bloom just right, then what can happen is you can get a blobby mess. So I'm going to try and prevent that today. And as you can see, it's gone pretty clear. There's still a couple of bubbles on the surface. In fact, I'm going to torch that and just have a look. Because you do find with these thicker resins, oh, there we go. So that is actually crystal clear once you get rid of those surface bubbles. So again, it's gone through the bubble removal machine and it's pretty clear. There's just a couple of those on the surface, but I'm not worried about those. I can get those with my torch once I've poured. Now, with blooms, I want to see what temperature we're at, because temperature is going to be the most important thing. And with how thick this is, I want it at about, well, that's got really hot where I've just torched the surface. But at the bottom, I'm already at 42 degrees. So I need to get a move on with this. I didn't realize the temperature had got up so quick, and I'm at risk of a flash cure here. So I'm going to pour some into my pots at the side. So I'm going to use one for a white. Wow, that really has warmed up really quick. Jesus. So again, it might speed up your bloom process. Pour some into this one as well. So I'm going to go with a metallic purple, a white, and also a papaya, and just see what effect we get. So again, just putting some into each of these pots, and then the rest of it can go straight into my mold. Wow, that really got warm very quick. And I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough here, because I want to make sure I'm covering the whole of that base. You want a layer. Always scrape your cup as well, don't waste any resin. But wow, that got really warm. I'm glad I checked the temperature when I did, because that's only been sat probably about 10-15 minutes, so not a lot. And I'm not going to be using the cat's eye alcohol ink in this or anything like that. I'm just going to be something in my resin there, so I'm going to move that as well. But I'm just going to get it into all points of this mould. It's quite a thin layer at the minute, but don't forget I'm going to be adding my bloom. I'm going to be adding these colours to it, which is probably going to add around about another 2 ounces. So we'll see if this works. But I've got to get a shifty on because, wow, that really did heat up quicker than I expected. But the good thing is once you pour it on that surface area, it does cool it down a little bit as well. So I can see quite a few bubbles still. Not going to panic. Just going to get my torch on them, he says, and then his torch runs out of gas. There we go. And when you're torching, try and avoid the sides as much as possible. So again, I am going to still go around the edges, but I am going to do this sort of in turbo mode now, because I've realised how warm that resin's got already, and I'm just worried that I might have left it too long. Should have kept my eye on it more, to be honest, with it being a new resin. And I have got a bit of something in there which I don't want, so that can come out on the side. And again, just try and tease any bubbles up to the surface like that, but you can see how thick this is. I'm slightly gobsmacked by how quickly that warmed up, and I'm just glad I caught it before we got a flash cure then, to be honest. And again, just going to go over these. I don't mind if there's a few tiny bubbles, because I think once it cures they will go. So I'm just turning the heat up on this a little bit. There we go, that's better. So getting rid of any bubbles on that surface, because again I want it to be reasonably bubble free, as we all do. So that's that. Now for my bloom, I'm just going to use the Ocean White again from Let's Resin, and I'm going to use a few, probably just 1 drop in this. I think that'll be enough, he says. Well, so that's 1 drop and a bit of string, so it's more like 1.5 drops. So that's that. Again, just give my gloves a quick wipe, because it gets everywhere when you let it get on the bottle. So again, top tip, don't let it get in your bottle. But yeah, it's just really surprised me how quickly that heated up. So again, I need a stick for that one, I'm going to need a stick for that one, and I'm going to need a stick for this one. And I'm almost going to try a bit of a dirty pour for this as well, so you'll see what I mean in a minute. So this is a metallic purple that I love the colour of. And again, just giving that a swirl around in there, and not using too much, just whatever's left on the stick. I think that'll be more than enough. And I want that to go in the one with a little bit more in. In fact, I think that might be a bit too much, but we will see. And then I'm going to use this papaya. I love it. You've probably seen me use it on multiple videos now. It is currently my favourite colour of mica. So again, just going to put not too much. I think that much will be enough in there. And then before I go any further, I've got some of these little beads, which I'm just going to put in the centre. I don't think I've got enough in there. So again, just going to add a few. To this pot, and I want it to have almost a golden centre, so more of those gold than anything else, with a couple of flakes of the pink and a couple bits of the black, and I think that'll be enough. And then what I'm going to do is just get any spare drops of resin in here, mix it with those, and then that should create almost a little paste for me to put them in. But yeah, that slightly shocked me how quickly that heated up. So again, just going to mix this in with that resin and put these in the centre. Beautiful. And just try and encourage them down and reasonably central. In fact, I'm going to use a stick for this, it's going to be easier at the minute. Just scrape them out off my stick into that centre. And again, I probably shouldn't have used a medicine pot for this because they've got those little edges and they actually catch. And so this is mainly to test the resin. It's not actually to see the effect, if any, of this bloom, but I still want to get a nice effect if I can. But I'm just conscious of how quickly that heated up there. So again, it had 10 minutes in the mixer, then probably another 10 minutes where we were just playing with that first project. But again, only sort of 20 minutes and we were up over 40 degrees. So again, one to watch, I think, if you are doing blooms or anything like that. Just be aware that that one will heat up quite quickly. So there we go, happy with that for a centre. Now I'm going to mix up my white before it sets. Oh wow. So I've had my first flash cure and it really has. Wow. There we go, guys. I knew it would happen on a video. I just didn't think it'd be this one. Now I've still got some purple, some orange which hasn't flash cured on me yet. And I've just poured some all over that bloom. Do you know what? I'm still going to persist. See what happens. But yeah, that has really flash cured straight away. So I timed that wrong. I'm going to take whatever's flash cured out of there and just see if there's anything left. A little tiny bit there. I still want a different effect, so I'm going to pour that into this side cup. This is going to be a real strange one. If I get anything out of this, I'm going to be happy. I can't believe how quickly that resin cured. So again, just be conscious of that, guys. I'm going to put some white bloom directly into this. And this is turned out to be a very different project to what it was going to be. But I'm still going to persist and see if we get a result. So I'm moving really quickly now. Just mixing those colours together and that bloom. Wow, it feels really hot already. And I'm going to see just how thick that is. It is very, very strange. But I think that was my timing. I don't think it's the resin. I think I was distracted by the other project. And that's what's kind of caused that to happen. But I've still got one pot of colour that hasn't flash cured yet, so I'm going to persist and see if I can get it in this piping bag and at least get some results so I've not wasted it. But that is my first flash cure. So, just shows you, keep an eye on your resin, guys. Again, I'm going to pour this in if I can. And I want it as a kind of dirty pour effect, which it definitely is going to be. Now, because this was not what I planned at all, I'm just doing this because I do want to still get something to have a look at. Wowzers. I'm going to do another experiment with this project as well over the next couple of days where I'm actually watching the resin and trying to prevent this flash curing. But I do think that was my fault, not the resin, guys. So I've got my resin in the bag. Not an awful lot. I think I've probably got half an ounce that I've managed to rescue before it flash cured. And wow, if I get anything out of this project, I'm going to be happy. And sorry just for you online, I think this is user error rather than the resin itself. But just taking the end off that now. Going to try and squeeze it down. And I've got little splashes of mica because of how I rushed, but again, I'm not worried about that. I'm just going to see if I can get some swirls in here. Wow. Of a similar thickness and viscosity. And see what, if anything, this comes out like. But as I say, I don't think this was the resin's fault. I think it was my fault for not constantly checking the temperature, which I normally do, guys. So lesson learned, that even I can get a flash cure. So just take your time. I'm going around this spiral, trying to make sure that I've got reasonably evenly thick lines, although this is really thickened up now. So this is going to be one of those projects where I don't know if we're going to get a result. Look at the thickness of it. It's almost like a glue now. Don't know why I sound surprised though, because as I say, we had that flash curing. I should have moved a lot quicker with this. So sorry just for you online, but as I say, I'm sure it's user error. I'm just trying to get the last bit out to these 2 petals. And so just to see if I can get any effect whatsoever with this now. I've almost at the flash curing point with this bloom as well. Just shows you. It's amazing. How quickly that went from being good and being prepared, I suppose, to going completely out of control and getting that flash cure. Right, so that's those in, and I am going to try and put a design in, but the way this project's gone today, who knows? So just pulling in to that center. From each of these points, and look at how thick it is. Wow. I've got a feeling that this project is going to be the strangest demold yet. I don't think I've left enough time for this to actually cure in the resin either. Look at that, it's like a glue. But I always say persist. And find out what is going to happen. I think I'm going slightly mad in this project as well now. There we go. But this is literally, it's like glue now. But I just want to see if I can get something, anything. At this point, I will accept. Wow. Well, at least now I've experienced a flash cure. I know what one's like, you know? Just going to go around this with my torch. Because why not? I've already ruined everything else in this project. I don't think that's going to bloom. And I think I've done this resin a massive injustice. So I've got to wait for this to now cure at least. Then I can demold it and do another one. But I'm loving that first resin, and we'll see what results that gives us tomorrow. And I'm going to do another bloom with this resin. Just actually keeping an eye on it, you know. Wow. I'm still slightly shocked. I think you can probably hear it in my voice, but literally, I've never had a flash cure before. And that, look, I put the white drop in and boom, that cured, flash cured straight away. That's solid now, that's cured. One of the dangers of resin, guys. So work with it, keep your eye on it at all times. And I think my problem was, it's the first time I've tried like 2 or 3 experiments at once, and I've tried to juggle too much. But I am going to come back, I am going to do it again, with me actually watching it like a hawk, and seeing where we go, because actually I think this resin will be really good for blooms. I just need to actually keep my eye on it and time it. This, I think what I've done gives that resin a massive injustice. But you know what? I'm still going to pull these through and see what, if anything. Look at how stringy that's gone. Wow. It is virtually cured in minutes. Oh, I'm making it worse. I'm making it worse, guys. Wow. I am still slightly in awe of this. It's my worst project yet. Sorry, guys. User error. It's not the resin. It's it's human. I'm still going to be interested to see what it cures like. But yeah, not how to do a bloom, guys. So you've seen it here. You've seen me have a flash cure. You've seen everything go wrong. That can happen in resin. Don't panic. Move on to the next project and try again. And I'll see you at demold. So we are back, and after having that first flash cure process, which I've never had before, I think it's only fair that I prove that was me not paying attention rather than the resin's fault. So I'm going to do another bloom now, and actually try and do what I intended to do. I think the problem is I was concentrating on two different projects at the same time, didn't keep an eye on the temperature of that resin, and that's what led us to that flash cure. So I'm only going to mix up 3 ounces this time, and hopefully get one of these in the bloom design that I was going to go for. So just another lesson to be learnt there is, if you're using a new resin, experiment with it, but watch it like a hawk and get to know it. So again, I'm going to be using this 1 coat because I did actually really like the thickness, and I think it will work with blooms. But because of that thickness, it heats up a heck of a lot quicker. So I'm going to keep my eye on it this time. So again, just putting 1.5 ounces of each into this mixing cup, and I'm going to try and mix it a little bit slower this time as well, because I did find that for me, I think I was mixing it a little bit too vigorously on the last one, and that's why I got more bubbles in there when I put it in the bubble removal machine. So again, I'm going to try that, and again, you've got to get to know your resin. You know, whatever resin you're using, the more you play with it, the more you work with it, the more you get to know it. And I think that was the problem there. So I did have my first flash cure, which was exhilarating in some ways, but it just shows you, no matter how many times you do these projects, there's always a surprise that's just waiting for you. And I say, this is so thick, but I actually think it's really going to work for the blooms if I can get that timing right. So here we go, attempt number 2, and I'm hoping we don't get a flash cure this time. I'm going to keep my eyes on it. I'll say it's probably user error more than resin error, I would say. There we go, so that is 3 ounces in there. And again, it's always fun. You never know what you're going to get when you experiment with resin and you get a new sort of resin to work with. So again, I'm going to mix this time really slowly to try and prevent as many bubbles as I can. And I think that's part of the fun for me of working with resins as well. Each one's got its own characteristics. Each one's got its own correct temperatures to get certain effects and its own curing time, you know. So I'm just slowly going around this time, trying not to create as many bubbles as I did last time. Still going to mix it for probably about 3 minutes, but this time I'm going to keep my eyes on the temperature, which I wasn't doing in that first one, and it had already got to like 50 degrees before I started working with it, and that's why I got that flash cure process. So again, if you're new to resin, to prevent that, just keep an eye and keep focused on the project that you're working on. But I actually think this resin will be really good for blooms as well. So I'm hopefully going to prove that in this experiment. There we go, and that's already crystal clear. So I think the streaks have gone. I'm just going to go around the sides, get it all off the edges and off that off the bottom. But I think that for me is mixed. And then I'm still going to put it in the bubble removal machine for 5 minutes, but I'm going to keep my eye on it whilst it's in there as well. And as I say, let's hope I don't get another flash cure. That was absolutely crazy. And I know people talk about it a lot in resin communities, but until you've had one yourself, a flash cure, you really don't know what it's like, and you saw me rush in there at the end just to try and get something out of it. If I'm being honest, I don't think I'll get anything out of that first one, but I do think it's user error. I don't think it's the resin. I actually think the resin's going to make a really good bloom. So that's why I wanted to do this straight away on the same video. But just for you online, thanks for sending me these new resins as well. If nothing else, it has given me a great experience that I haven't had in resin before. So we're going to do it again now, and I'm pretty confident we're going to get a really good bloom because the consistencies were there and it was right, but it was just my timing that sort of let us down in that last one. So as soon as it's ready to come out the bubble removal machine, we'll progress, and I'll check the temperature at the start. I think I'm going to want this at around about 30, 32, 33 when I pour, not 50. And hopefully that's going to prevent this the problems that we had last time. So I'll see you in a second. So here we go, round 2. It's just had 5 minutes in the bubble removal machine. Now I could put it in there again to try and get rid of those last few, but I'm not going to, and that's just because of how quickly it heated up last time. And I think they'll naturally degas anyway. So as you can see, after 5 minutes, it's already at 27 degrees. I'd probably say that's 4 or 5 degrees higher than what I normally get from resin after 5 minutes in the bubble removal machine. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to see what happens with this one. And I say I'm just going to do one of these coasters, hopefully with the effect that I was trying to get last time. So I've got 2 piping bags ready, one for my white and one for my 2 colours, which is going to be this papaya and this purple, the same as last time. So as I say, it's going to be really interesting now. I'm going to keep on watching it like a hawk as it's degassing. And I'm going to go when this gets to around about 31, 32 degrees Celsius, because I think that is going to be the key with this resin, with it being so thick. So I'm going to get everything else ready now, so that when we're ready to go, we're actually ready to go because of how quickly it cured last time. So, whilst that's heating up, I'm going to get some of this papaya again in one of these pots. Really, really vibrant orange. Not too much, just enough to hopefully give me the colour that I'm looking for. In fact, that's too much, so I'm going to take some of that back out. And I'm hoping to get these so that they don't just completely blend, is the plan. And then almost do it a bit like a dirty pour in the piping bag for the colours and see what happens. So again, going to be using this metallic purple for the other colour. I'm just hoping it works this time. So I am conscious of how quickly it went last time. So again, I think whatever's left on my stick there is more than enough. So that's that. And then I'm going to pre-put the drop of the ocean white in there as well. So that's ready to go. I need to clean this bottle actually with some alcohol because it's going all over my gloves every time I use it. So literally just a drop and a couple of strings. It doesn't like to drop, this ocean white. And that's my 3 colours ready. And I say I'm going to go at around about 31 degrees, I think. $25. It seems to be a bit slower this time on the sort of speeding up of the heating process. So we're going to see. Maybe that was just a bizarre result that wouldn't normally happen last time, but it was interesting because, as I say, it's my first flash cure. It's something to be aware of when you work with resin, is if you're not keeping your eye on it, it can flash cure pretty quickly, and it gets really hot really quickly. So just keep an eye on your resin when you're working with it, and try and avoid that, because as I say, that first bloom, I don't think I'm going to get any kind of result whatsoever. So I'm going to just add a touch of gold as well to that papaya, just because I've really liked the way that that's looked in previous experiments. Literally just the tiniest bit of this metallic gold as well. So it's going to be quite heavy, and that's why I think you need a thicker viscosity resin for this to work. But we're going to find out. And so I'm just conscious of this resin. 25.5 and 24.4. So we've still got time. I'd probably say at least another 5 minutes before this is ready, but again, I don't know. Just torching those bubbles on the top. And I'm not worried about bubbles for this experiment because I think they'll naturally degas anyway with this resin. But we'll see, because the thicker the viscosity of the resin you use, then the more sort of little mini trap bubbles you're likely to have. But I do find that when it starts that exothermic reaction, most of those bubbles just go anyway. But yeah, my first flash cure, you've seen it live on camera, and hopefully my last, but never say never. But it's still heating up, so 25 degrees on the bottom, already 30 degrees now on the top. So I'm just conscious of this. And as I say, when it gets to about, I think 33 degrees on the top is when I'm gonna go and see what result we get. And I'm just gonna be doing this one coaster here. So I think I've got all of the debris and bits out when I cleaned it. Yeah, now it's really starting to, I think, heat up. 25 on the bottom now. But as I say, once we get to 33, 34 degrees on that surface, I'm going to go because I don't want it to flash cure again. And I actually think we're going to get a really cool result with this, hopefully. There's still a lot of variables, i.e. my piping skills, that are yet to be seen, but we will see. So the plan is I'm going to go in with one piping bag with the white, and I'm going to do sort of a swirl effect, and then I'm going to try and pour the purple and the papaya into the same piping bag and then just pipe it out almost like a dirty pour and see what results we get from this. And I'm hoping to get a really cool effect, so we will see. And I'm hoping that we still get that contrast between the white and the purple and the papaya. So let's see, let me know if you think it's going to work. But this is why I love working with like new products, new resins, new things like this, because it's just testing them. They've all got their own unique properties, and it's about finding out which ones are right for the project that you're doing. And no matter how many times you've worked with resin, I think it's one of those things that eventually, if you're working with a new product and you don't fully understand that product, that viscosity, those temperatures and things like that, you will get a flash cure. And there you go, you've just happened to see my first one. But it just shows you as well the different viscosities of resin. So again, guys, just to reiterate, these products were sent to me for Just For You online. Have a look on there. If there's anything that you like the look of, then I have got a discount code for you, which is ccukresin. And just to reiterate, that flash cure, I don't think it was the resin, I think it was human error, and that's why I'm doing this experiment straight after, to show you hopefully that. But it was amazing to see the different consistencies in those two resins, and they're both Apex resin, both from Just For You online. So we're at 28 now and 25. And I'm just going to show you this pig mold actually on the side in a minute as well, because if I have got a couple of drops spare, I'm just going to put them back in those feet, because what happens is as it all settles, those feet almost become hollow, and it's just the shape of the mold and the fact that gravity pulls it down. So I'm going to try and top that up as well, because I don't want hollow feet in my little piggy. So I'm hoping to have just literally 4 drops to put into those feet. And if you can just see, this is where I mean, it sort of goes a little bit indented after it settles for a while. So it's good to keep a few drops of resin to one side, and then in 5-10 minutes just top it back up. But I haven't done that, but I'm hoping I'll get a few drops of this thicker viscosity one just to put in those feet to make sure they're not hollow when it cures. But let me know in comments, have you had your first flash cure in resin yet? And what was the experience like for you? As I say, I think it was slightly panicked, as you probably heard in my voice earlier on in that video with your first flash cure. But it's just one of those things. I think if you work with resin long enough, it's going to happen at some point. So 26.3 on the base, 28.8 on the top. I think 1 more minute and then we'll be ready to go. I think one thing that you need to realize when you're working with resin and blooms is the thicker the resin, the lower the temperature you start at. The thinner the resin, the higher the temperature. So if you're working with a really low viscosity resin, you might have to wait till it gets to, I don't know, 40, 45 degrees. But if you're working with a really thick resin like this one, then you probably don't want to leave it any longer than probably 32, 33 degrees. Because the thicker the resin, the faster that process will start to happen. And again, guys, if you're liking the content, including my flash cure on the channel, do me a favor, like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference to the channel overall. And see, 29.2, so maybe another 60 seconds and then we'll go. But again, just do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel while you're here. And again, if you want anything from Just For You Online, there's that discount code, which is CCUK. Now, I haven't got anything prepared for the center of this one. So I might just leave it as a swirl for this one. For the purpose of the experiment, because again, if it works out nicely, I'm probably going to do a set of 4 of these at a later date, and then I can think about a center. 29.3, 26.8. Let's say I just want to get the temperatures right, and that's what it is. It's all about with resin. You've got to find the right temperatures for your resin, because every resin is completely different and reacts very differently. But I can just see the thickness in there. It's still got a bit of thin viscosity to it. I am going to torch those bubbles on the top and hopefully not cause it to flash cure, because the more I can get out, the better. There we go. So that is those. And again, it's amazing all the different viscosities that you get, and every single resin will behave differently. So you've just got to find out what works for you and the project and the effects that you're wanting. There we go. So 27.5 on the bottom is still a bit low, and the only reason that's shot up now is because I've just torched those bubbles. So I'm still going to leave it about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to pour. So again, I'm going to pour first of all into these pots with my colours. So I've got the papaya, I've got the white, and I've got that purple. The plan is then to just pour the rest of it into that coaster, and then mix these up, get them in the piping bags and pipe in some sort of design. So that's saying 32.9 there. I just want the base to say 30, and then I'm going to go. So again, this is all an experiment. Might not work, might work, we'll find out. 32.5 I've got on the surface, and I'm going to go for it. So pouring a little bit into that white, and again I'm just eyeballing this, no specific measurement. I just want to make sure I've got enough for all 3 colours and enough to cover at least the base of the mould. So there we go. It's still quite a thin viscosity at the minute, but I know with this one, as it heats up, it thickens quite quickly. And I think that's enough for my colours. I'm not going to need a lot, and then the rest of it can go straight in to this circular Let's Resin mould. And I'm just going to let it spread naturally, and then using my stick to get out anything excess in there. And then, as I say, I'm just going to steal a drop for each of these feet on the pig. And again, I probably shouldn't be doing this right now, because I should be concentrating on this one to make sure I'm not going to get a flash cure again. But we will see. Pretty confident now, with me keeping my eye on it, that's not going to happen, hopefully, he says. So again, just scraping out any remaining resin into that so we can not waste any, because resin is expensive. Although this Apex resin, as I say, it is reasonably priced compared to some of the others that I've used. So leave that to one side. Then I'm going to do the same again. Just go around it with my tool, just to get any bubbles off that edge, which is where they like to stay. And then I'm going to torch it. just to get rid of any of those bubbles on the surface. And I think any of the ones that are slightly embedded in that resin will, as it degasses, as it cures, go. But again, if not, we'll find out in the result. Pretty happy with that. And I don't want to overheat it, so let's mix up my white. And again, when you're mixing your white for your bloom, you don't want it too thick. You almost want it like a semi-skim milk, so you can still just about see through it. But with the thickness of this resin, I'm hoping it can take quite an opaque white. So that's going to go into this piping bag straight away. And just try and scrape as much of it out as possible, because I think I've still got a couple of minutes of working time to work with. And anything spare, I can always use that in a different mould. So that's my white done. Now my purple. Look at that, gorgeous colour. Might be a little bit thick, but we're going to find out together. So that is my purple. And this is my papaya with that tiny speck of gold. And you really want to make sure that you properly mix it, especially with these thick resins, otherwise you'll just get pockets of mica powder which will explode. So going in and around all of those edges. And then I'm going to try and pour this into the piping bag in sort of a dirty pour, so that hopefully we get a unique sort of blend of these colours. So first bit, a bit of purple in there, and it's almost layering it into that piping bag, and I'm hoping that's going to give us some really cool results with the petals. But again, it's the first time I've tried it. I just wanted to try something different with a bloom today, and obviously I'm trying these new resins as well. So now in with some golden papaya, now in with a bit more of the purple, almost creating different sort of layers of colour. And again, I don't know if it's going to work or if it's all going to just blend together, but that's what it's about. It's about experimenting, having fun, and seeing if you can get different kind of effects. So I'm just going to put this one down, and I'm going to pour the remainder of the purple in. Again, trying to get it all out because I don't want to waste any resin. And this will hopefully create some pretty unique looking petals. So that is all of my purple in the piping bag. Move that to one side. In fact, I'm going to tip it upside down in that dragon mould I've got, just to see if there is any, and it can come out. And then the rest of this gold and papaya can go in as well. I want them reasonably even, but again, if it's not, it's no big drama. And there we go. So that is my two colours. Well, three colours really. And let me know in comments, guys, do you think this is going to work? Do you think I'm going to get a flash cure again? There we go, but I can see how thick that is already. So just torching off any of those bubbles off the surface, and then I'm going to go in with my design. It's not a thick layer either, but it should be enough just to give me something to pipe onto. So I'm going to go in first with my white. Again, just squeezing it all down the bag like so. And I'm just going to give it a twist, and that should be my white ready to go. Going to get the colours ready as well. And I say, this is going to be really intriguing when I start piping as to what effect I get with this, if any. You know, looks gorgeous in that piping bag. So that is my colours. So I'm going to go in with the white first, because I want to have, if I can, at least a white edge. And I can see that's still thickening up already. So I'm going to move quite quickly now, trying to get that design in before it fully cures. So I'm going to go in with the white first. So just cutting the tiniest bit off the end and making sure I've got something to just wipe it onto, which I have. There we go. And I'm not going to wait around, I'm just going to go straight in and try and get spirals in a reasonably even consistency all the way around this round coaster mould. And as I say, I think looking at the properties of this resin, I actually think it's going to make a really cool bloom. So we'll find out in a second. There we go. So that is my white. Put that to one side. And now for my colours. Again, exactly the same process. So just going to snip off the end and probably go slightly thicker with this, because I want to give both colours a chance to come out of that end. And again, just going to try and go in between where I've gone with that white. And if anything, I've gone in slightly thicker with these colours, but that's okay, because I think the colours will be the hero of this piece, which will really make it stand out. And again, just trying not to put too much in so that it blobs, but enough that I get that colour, so happy with that. So I'm just going to pour the excess into that side mould, give it a second just to hopefully start that blooming process off, and then put in the design of the petals. But so far, going a lot better than the last one. So again, with this, I'm just pouring any excess into my dragon mould at the side. But again, do me a favour guys, let me know if you're liking the content, like and subscribe to the channel, all makes a huge difference. And obviously the bigger this community grows, the more of these experiments and projects I can actually do and test new products and new resins and things like that. So it all helps. Even if it's just a like, thumbs up, makes a huge difference. So do me a favour and just do that in the comments. And thank you again to Just For You Online for sending me these products to test. So there we go. That is already starting to try and bloom, which I'm happy about. I'm just going to do the standard design here, and I'm going to go in like that. Need a new cloth just to wipe my stick. I'm going to go in like that. I'm going to go in like that. Try and just detach this bit off the side as well. Go in like that, and then split the difference. And then I'm going to go about halfway and pull it back out to the edge of the mould. And that way what you find is you keep these rounder petals in the centre, and you get this almost completely different petal on the outer edge, which I think looks really cool. And again, if I get some transparent in this again, I won't be upset. I think it'd look really good. So already looking a million times better than last time. So I'm just gonna torch again the top to get rid of any of those bubbles, and look at the state of my gloves after using those piping bags. So again, that's another reason to wear gloves, guys. But I'm just gonna, as I say, torch those bubbles on the surface. Now I've added those micas, and I actually, as I say, I think this resin is going to be really good for 3D blooms. So we will find out together. And I'm not sure if I'm going to put a back on it yet. I'll decide that probably in about 4 or 5 hours. If I think it will benefit from a back at that point, I'll probably put one on. But if not, I'll just leave it. And look at all, what a waste. That must have been where it sort of dripped out of the bag as I was removing it. So again, just make sure you tidy your workspace afterwards. Now these are going to be a lot easier to just sort of, I don't know, scrape off when it's cured. So I'm not panicking, I'm just wiping around the edges. And once that's cured, I can just go around with a little bit of alcohol. In fact, I didn't even see myself making that mess, but I'll look back on the video and see where I did that. But I hope you're enjoying it, and I'll see you at demold. Hey guys, and we're back, and look at that. It's only been 4 hours since I did this, but that is fully cured now. So I think that's probably why I got the flash cure as well, because it is actually a fast cure resin, and I didn't realise just how fast it cured. But again, looking at the packaging, it is definitely a fast cure thick 1-coat resin. So I am going to put a back on this. Now I want to go slightly different. I'm fed up a black. I've done a lot of gold, so I'm going to do a slightly different colour. And I'm not measuring this exactly because it is just for a backing, and I just want a thin layer. So that is probably, I'm just having a look now, about 10 mil. Not an awful lot. So again, it's going to be hard to get just one blob of this resin out, but and I know I've not got my gloves on. I am naughty and I apologise for that. But I just wanted to get this backing layer on it as well. I'm just trying to get it up to that amount. And it's so thick, this fast cure resin. It's hard to get the exact amount out that you need, but I think once this last blob comes out, I'm about there. There we go. So that is probably about 30 mil, I would say. Not a huge amount, but I don't need a huge amount. It doesn't need to be thick, because actually with these coaster molds, they're so thick I never fill them. So hopefully that's enough. Again, just make sure you put the right lids on the right bottle, and it is this EPOXY resin 1-coat that I'm using. Again, I'm going to be using the same for the back. So I've decided to be a bit more adventurous with the backing, and I've got this sort of Nature Pigments really almost purpley pinky colour, which I'm going to be using, but I just want to stir this up first. And hopefully with this being fast cure, I should be able to demold later on tonight and get this video out to you tomorrow. So that's one of the benefits of fast cure, is you get to demold your piece quicker. And with blooms, it seems to really work. I'm loving the effect that I can see through that. I'm just hoping it hasn't blobbed on the front with how thick I did those colours. And again, I probably stirred this a little bit too quick, but it shouldn't matter because bubbles wise, I think they'll all come to the top. And we will be okay, so touch wood. So just scrape the sides, just using this silicone pot because A, it's easier, B, it's easier for me to actually pour as well, and C, they clean out a lot easier. I'm going to be getting a load more of these, I think, because I prefer these to those little ones that you get. I'd be trying to be careful not to get it absolutely everywhere, and I've already got some on my hands. This is why you wear gloves. But again, I'm just going to wipe that off before it goes absolutely everywhere. And I think this should be almost a metallic-y cross between purple and pink, I think, when I've mixed it. Look at that. So again, it's a very different shade to the purple that I've used in the bloom. And I think it should still give us a reasonably dark background, is the thinking, but it's still different enough that it should stand out, hopefully. And again, anything spare will go into my dragon mold. But look at that, that's a different colour. I've not used that before. And it'll either look good or it'll look rubbish. We'll find out together. So just going to start in the middle and make sure there's enough to just give it that layer. And I think this should almost be the perfect thickness. It's almost creating a dragon scale effect, actually, this mica. And Again, I've not used this mica before, so there's lots of firsts in this experiment, and we'll find out tomorrow if it's worked out. But just gonna put that on my dragon mold upside down and hope that the rest of that resin can just pour itself out into that mold. Wipe my stick so I can use it again. Again, always have baby wipes by your side when you're doing resin work. And you can see the bubbles that are forming there, but that's fine. I expected that to happen. I'm just going to go over it with my torch. And get rid of any of those surface bubbles, he says. I'm going to have to top this up today as well because I think my torch is running out of gas. It's lasted me quite a while though. One fill on this has lasted me, must be 3 months. So it's a lot better than those long neck lighters I used to use. And it's still popping them. So I'm going to come back in a couple of minutes and just make sure that they're all popped, any of those surface bubbles. And then hopefully in a few hours we'll get to demold and see what the actual bloom is like. But again, I love that effect with micas. Just the way they sort of form their own little patterns. I think it's absolutely stunning. But again, with this being fast cure, I think it'll be able to demold it in 4 or 5 hours, to be honest. So we'll see, and I'm excited to see if that bloom has worked out after that flash cure and just prove that it wasn't the resin, it was human error. So I'll see you in a few hours for demold. Hey guys, here we are, and it's time for demold. And all I did with this piece that kind of got ruined by the flash cure was I left it in the silicone mould and I put it in this metal bowl, and it's created this cool sort of slightly elevated effect just on the petals. So you could probably use that as a, I don't know, a soap dish or a little trinket tray, something like that. But it's actually created a really good effect. So at least this piece wasn't completely wasted. And I'm going to keep this as a reminder of my first flash cure, as you saw earlier on in the video. So there we go, but that's that one. Next, I'm going to demold this bloom that I did with the fast cure as well, just to show that it does work, and it wasn't the resin's fault, it was mine. Again, I love that pink mica powder on the back. And on the front, wow. Now that is gorgeous as a 3D bloom. And I love that metallic purple coming through on those petals as well. A little bit deeper than what you get with your alcohol inks. And that's what I love about this effect on the 3D bloom, is actually you can do it with micas with the right resin. And there's no blobbing on that whatsoever. Nothing's touching that surface. But I love that effect and I love those colours. So again, it just shows you that resin did work and the flash cure was human error. So, and lovely shine to it as well, really smooth, and there's no air bubbles whatsoever on that surface, so really happy with that. So again, if you want to get yourself some of that resin, it's the Apex resin, and the fast cure, as I say, that's been sort of 7 hours I think since I did it, and that is solid and fully cured now. So that is that one. But get yourself onto Just For You online, use the discount code CCUK as well if you want to get yourself some of that resin. But again, that's amazing to think that I've only had to wait 6 hours to demold. So that is that one, happy with that. Right, let's have a look at these teddy bears. And again, this was just the standard resin, not the fast cure, but I think they're cured enough to demold. And again, the great thing about this to me, look, that looks crystal clear, but if you hold it up to the light, you can just see those cat's eye elements. And that is absolutely gorgeous again. Again, not a single bubble in that. It's almost like glass, but then you get that cat's eye effect in the right light, and that is stunning. And again, I could back it with a black, but I actually don't think it needs it, you know. I think it's stunning as it is, and I like the fact that it just looks like clear resin until you get it in that light, and then you get the the cat's eye effect from that alcohol ink. And again, by mixing it directly into the resin, it has fully suspended it all over as well. So again, really like that effect, and just trying to get you the right light for it. But you get all of those different colours of that cat's eye coming through. So they were good. I'm guessing I'll get a similar effect with this starfish. And again, I'm really liking this mould at the minute from Into Resin, the crystal starfish mould. So again, looks completely clear, like glass or crystal. But then if you hold it in the right light, you just get those cat's eye glimmers coming through with that cat's eye alcohol ink. So again, love that piece, and love the colours you get just from moving the piece around. And you can really see that crystal effect. So again, stunning piece that. Really happy with that. And now for this piggy. Let's have a look and see what we've got. I know there's some overpour, but that was deliberate because I wanted to make sure that I got these legs right this time. So just pulling it apart and hopefully going to get it a clean demold and a successful little piggy. So again, just trying to prise it apart a little bit. And then I think this side's the tail, so it's easier to demold from this side. And remember, be careful not to touch the inside of your mould. Here we go, so he is now demolded. So a little bit of overpour, but what I was trying to avoid was hollow legs, which I think I've done this time just by filling them back in. So if you remember on the last video, I'm just going to take this overpour off if I can, whilst it's still easy to just peel off with my finger, because you will get that where the X is on the mould, but again, it just peels off. So on the last pig that I did, which was the one that I did with this sort of glitter, that was the only downside, because I didn't top those feet back up, so they're slightly hollow, if you can just see there. But that has fixed that problem, just topping them up. So yeah, just going to give you a closer look. And again, he looks really cool because he's got that crystal effect everywhere. But you can just see those suspended particles of those cat's eye particles coming through. And I think that really adds to the shimmer of the piece. But again, really like these crystal molds from Into Resin. And the whole piece is just crystal. It's got that effect going all the way through it. So really happy with him again. And again, even the eyes have come out really well with him. Just that little piggy face. So I think that has been a success as well. And it goes to show you that resin, that Apex resin, again, it's crystal clear results. And not a single air bubble in that either. So again, that's what you want from your crystal molds, definitely. So let me know what you think in comments, guys. I hope you've liked the video. I really like that piggy again, and I really like this bloom. So again, do me a favor if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you've enjoyed it.